Welcome back to Flashpoint. This week's elections pushed back to the spring in Charlotte because of delayed census data. One person running for city council is both a trailblazer and might just be a familiar face. Joining us today on Flashpoint, Billy Maddalon. He served on Charlotte City Council a few years ago, served as the first openly gay man on council, running again for the District 1 seat. Billy, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
Okay, why do you want this again? You served on council for a brief period a few years ago. Why you want another crack at it?
Well, some of the problems that existed back in 2013 when I was on council still exist today, and many of them have gotten worse. And so I think maybe I can help make it better. I have a habit of making things better when I get involved with them, and so this is my opportunity to offer myself as a candidate for the community, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity to help move the needle in the right direction on some really important issues.
Well, what do you think? You said some things have gotten worse in that 8-year time span since you've been on council. What's some of those? What do you think has gotten worse here in Charlotte?
Well, I mean, clearly affordability continues to be a challenge. We've got, to paraphrase, the rent's too damn high. I mean, people in Charlotte just can't afford to live here anymore unless you work in a certain socioeconomic strata. If Charlotte doesn't figure out how to overcome its affordable housing dilemma, then we're going to have a city where everyone that actually does work in Charlotte lives outside the city and has to commute in. That's a reality in some of our peer cities, and that would be a shame in Charlotte because, of course, it would rob us of the cultural diversity and nuances that have always made Charlotte rich, in my opinion.
The Charlotte 2040 plan, which was passed a few months ago by City Council, aims to sort of address that to some extent, not completely. What are your thoughts on it? Does it go far enough?
Well, no, but it went as far as it could go. In fact, it probably went farther than it can legally go. The 2040 plan is a great start, but it's, I've told groups all over District 1, the problem that we have is as good today as it's ever going to be. It's going to get worse. There's nothing we can do to stop it from getting worse. The only thing the 2040 plan can do is slow that down. We simply don't have the statutory capacity, the tools in our toolbox, if you will, from the legislature to effectively change the market forces that are driving a lack of affordability in our community. The folks that said, well, the 2040 plan might make it worse, you simply cannot make it worse. There's nothing that exists now to slow gentrification and loss of affordable housing down. There simply are no market forces to stop that. There are no regulatory forces that can slow that down or stop it. And so I'm really not sure what they mean when they say you can make it worse, because candidly, anyone that builds or develops at this point, if they make a decision that they want to go into a certain area, buy up affordable housing and knock it down and replace it with something that's less or not affordable, there's absolutely nothing that can stop them short of a zoning process that itself is completely broken.
So then what do you think needs to happen? You get on council in a few months. What do you think needs to change?
Well, council is doing what it can from a policy, and now we're moving into the regulatory phase to try to slow it down. And I think that's our obligation at this point, is to try to figure out how to stop the loss, slow the loss of affordable housing, build as much affordable housing as we can, try to create incentives in our markets to have affordable housing components. We're trying really hard to discover what works and what doesn't. So at this point, slowing it down is the best we can do. I think the 2040 plan achieves that. But I just want to make sure people know, and it's not an attempt to depress people, it's just an attempt to keep it real, which is to let people know that there simply isn't anything City Council can do, or the county for that matter, to stop the loss of affordable housing in Charlotte. It's going to continue to get worse. The only question is it going to get worse as rapidly as it's been getting worse, or is it going to get worse more slowly? I think the 2040 plan slows it down substantially, And my hope is that that'll give us enough time, maybe one of these days, to have statutory authority to actually fix the problem.
Perhaps an equally or almost equally daunting problem, transit in this city and in this region, and how to fix it. Current council is trying to tackle that on. It's the other topic we're talking about here on Flashpoint today. Do you think we are just so far behind the 8 ball when it comes to the city regionally, the Carolinas speaking, when you start talking about these rail lines and things like that? What's the best solution when it comes to transit across the greater Charlotte area?
Well, I'm all in on transit. I think that the ability to move people around a metropolitan area like Charlotte is an essential part of how we do economic development. Of course, the problem that we have with our transportation system, particularly when it relates to rail, is that we've created a dynamic, again, absent any statutory ability to do anything different, where we're now having to make a choice between whether or not to take rail and transportation into the areas that need it the most, where folks live densely, or where automobile ownership rates might be lower. But what we know is when we take those rail lines into those communities, what follows those rail lines is money. And developers and builders buy up those corridors before the rail lines ever even go in. And of course, we know what happens after that. Folks who have lived there for generations have to move. And so we've got to figure out how to change that. I don't have the answer, but I do know that right now, our transportation system is caught between a rock and a hard place, between moving people efficiently around the city and between destroying communities that have been there for generations.
Yeah, and it's sort of the combination, the confluence of the two issues we're talking about here, both transit
That's right.
and transportation, as well as affordable housing as well. All right, Billy Maddalon, running for District 1 State Council. Billy, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
More Flashpoint coming up after this.